what is the result that you want?
What is it that is me versus what is ego?
How is it gonna feel when I hit that goal?
What could go wrong?
What is it going to mean to me?
What is it that I'm truly after and why am I truly after it?
Who are you going to become?
How can I know my purpose until I know who I am? Hi, I'm here with Bree Hereford. She's a Tony Robbins coach. She's here to talk about things like purpose and things of that nature. Bree, would you like to talk about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hi guys. I work for Tony Robbins. I am a results coach, and I'm here joined by an amazing friend of mine, Ben, president of Zendrop, and I'm really excited to be here, explore some different topics with you.
All right, so the first topic that we want to talk about is purpose, which is this kind of pie in the sky idea that a lot of people say, but it doesn't really mean much to many people. I know that you work for Tony Robbins. He has a variety of frameworks that he uses, and one of them I believe is RPM. So could you talk a little bit about RPM? What is that and how it ties into purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times there's so much strategy and knowledge out there, right? So it's like you could get a book that's like how to do this for dummies, or go on Google or ChatGPT something. But what's most important is to focus on what is the result that you want. So we focus on what's that milestone, what's that goal, and we get very, very specific using a SMART goal, which I'm sure you're familiar with, right? Like SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. So you want that to be covered in that goal. So you start first with the result, then next is your purpose. And your purpose, I find with my clients, it's most important because it's about that emotion, right? We never do something unless we know why we're doing it. So it's 80% is all about the why, that emotion that pulls you forward, that, as Tony calls it, is emotional juice, right? It's what gets you up when you don't want to wake up at 5 a.m, right? So the emotional juice that pulls you forward, and then you ask yourself 3 questions under the purpose, right? So you got results in the middle, purpose on the right, and then the next part we're going to go over. But you ask yourself 3 questions. How is it going to feel when I hit that goal, right? So when I achieve the success in my business, when I make X amount of millions, or I lose X amount of pounds, or whatever it might be that you want to commit to, you ask yourself, how is it going to feel? What is it going to mean to me? And who am I becoming in the process? So those are really the 3 you really want to articulate, because once you know that, now you have that fuel going forward, that emotional pull towards whatever it is. And you can feel that every day when you look in the mirror, when you're saying your incantations, whatever it may be, to get you there. So it's, how is it going to make you feel? What is it going to mean? And then who are you going to become? And out of those 3, the one you really want to put a lot of emphasis on, obviously all 3, but the becoming part, because we're always becoming a higher level version of ourselves, right? And there's always another level. So are you going to become, the most badass, CEO? Are you going to become the most incredible, loving, unconditional, giving mom? Whatever it is, what do you want to become? And then the third part, I know it's like very long-winded, but each step is really, really important. The third part is going to be, so you have results, purpose, and then massive action. Because without the massive action, you're not going to get anywhere, right? Like, don't confuse, the thoughts that you have and this dreaming and all of this with results, right? So we want to make sure that we focus on what are the things that I could do right now that wouldn't cost a lot of money, wouldn't take a lot of time, and I can commit to get to my goal. So you make a list of those things, and you want to limit that to at least 2 to 3 things. So those are the 3 components.
Yeah, that's a really good framework. I know Tony talks about it a lot, and there's a lot to digest there. I think one thing that really is important is figuring out the first 2 of the R and the P, which is, first of all, the results, because you can't get a map to where you're going if you don't know where you're going.
That's
and
right.
Like Tony likes to say, you could run east looking for the sunset your entire life. No matter how fast you run and how hard you work, you'll just never find it because you're looking in the wrong places. And so it's really important to know exactly where you want to go. And then this is where the purpose really ties in, because a lot of people on the P, on the purpose, they think the why, But a lot of times their why is actually totally misaligned with who they are. And Tony likes to
Yes.
talk about what is congruent and what is incongruent. And so you have this idea of, well, first, how can I know my purpose or the result that I actually want until I know who I am? And so
Yes.
this is why I think it's really important to understand what is it that is me versus what is ego, versus what are the things that I've buried, that are the parts of me that I don't understand or that I've hidden from the world that I need to kind of bubble back up to bring back into what my purpose truly is. And so this is something that I like to talk about because I've been on this journey myself trying to figure out, okay, I've kind of worked my way up Maslow's hierarchy of needs to the point where I'm kind of toward the top and I can start thinking about the things like self-actualization that a lot of people don't have the chance to do. And I think when we're talking to people here, we're not just talking to the world of everybody, we're talking to the people who have kind of gotten to the point where they have a certain level of success in their life, and now they're trying to figure out what is it that I'm truly after and why am I truly after it. And so for that, you have to figure out what is my purpose, but first, who am I? And I break that down into kind of three main components, and I haven't really done really in-depth psychology analysis on this, but my understanding of kind of the self is that you have me, which is actually who I am. You have the shadow, which in Jungian terms is the parts of you that you've buried over time. So think, let's say that growing up, you really liked being rude when you were a little kid. You were terrible twos, you would just kick and scream and cry. And then as you grew up, your parents taught you kicking and screaming, crying doesn't get what you want.
Sure.
And so when that bubbles up and you want to kick and scream to cry to get what you want, you bury that into you, and that's a healthy way of integrating your shadow into a way that manifests for you growing up as an adult. But there's other things that people have. Let's say that you were very creative as a kid and you liked art and painting and drawing. And then over time, you started going to school and you watched other people making money and you thought, oh, I need to do things that make money. And so
Right.
then you aligned creativity with things that don't make money, and you actually buried that into your shadow, even though that's a huge part of something that you could do all night and you could never go to bed and you could never sleep and you could do it forever and get into a flow state and absolutely love it, but you just totally buried it because you don't think that's what aligns with who you should be. The self is the actual integration of the things which are the ego and the shadow that actually serve you, which are who you truly are. And then the ego is who do you think you're supposed to be that is not necessarily in line with who you are. And so when I think about the ego, it's a lot of people buy brands and logos and all these flashy things. And when you say that's out of ego, well, what does that mean?
Right.
It
Like, how do you
says-
identify with that?
Yeah, if I talked about, all right, my perfect day from waking up to going to bed, if I described that to you at no point, and for most people at no point does that involve driving really fast in a sports car. But when they say, what do I want? You know, they'll say the result is to get a sports car.
Yes.
And then they'll say the purpose is so that I can feel good or be happy or whatever it may be. But then that's when they realize that no part of their day, no part of their life do they actually care about driving the car. It's
Right.
just what they believe someone who is successful has. And so what you need to do is figure out what is truly ego that doesn't serve you, what is in your shadow that you've buried that does serve you, and how can you integrate that into yourself. And I think that that's the work that people need to do before they can even start thinking about what results am I after and what my purpose of those are. Because if you don't do that, the purpose will always be muddied by this lack of understanding and all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you've touched on some really, really important pieces there. One of them being how our driving force, like the strongest driving force in us to stay congruent with, is our identity.
Right.
So anything that goes against that, you know, we're going to fight like hell to try to get back to. And it could be a really, like you said, the ego, the version of ourselves, right? The part of us that we want to be. It could be that, or we're either growing or we're going backwards. And number one, I always share this with my clients, is if you're not fulfilled on your own, if you're not happy with who you truly are in your core self, then you can't move forward. You can't move into what it is, that milestone is, that result that you want to create. So you have to be really congruent with the type of person that you really want to be and show up as. And it's such a good point is with the sports car is like you think that once you get there, right, you get the sports car, it's going to make you feel a certain way. People are going to see you a certain way. But who are you really when the doors close at night and you're going to bed and you know, climb into bed and you're like, well, I'm just like everybody else out there, right? We're just a normal human person having a human experience on this earth. And it's important to be very clear about how you want to show up in your life.
Yeah, those are really good points. And when you think about motivation and you think about happiness, what you mentioned, and I believe Tony talks about this as well, is the power of identity.
Yes.
If your identity is someone who is fit,
Yes.
and then you see a little tummy creeping in there, you are going to fight like hell to make sure that you get rid of that thing and you have abs.
Yes.
If you identify as someone who is successful by whatever definition of success that is to you, however you've been trained growing up to identify success, you will do whatever it takes. You will stay up late. You will work hard. You'll even sacrifice your health if that's not a priority, but success is in order to do that. And this is why Tony talks about kind of the wheel of life.
Yes.
And how it's not one spoke and that there's many spokes that you have to learn how to balance. And there's actually something that I think that you've worked on that's really interesting is that you've kind of had this identity your whole life as Bree. And then you found that Bree is amazing at certain things, but certain things that Bree does don't serve her. And so then you created this alter ego who is the version of yourself that you aspire to be. And tell me a little about who is that, what has that process been like, and what differences has it made for you?
Oh, those are good questions. You might have to remind me those questions. So
Well, we got it all on film.
we do. That's great. Thank God. I think this also, before I go into the alter ego, I think this really draws a really important point is really being careful with your language, right? So if you are a successful person, then you will live up to those successful standards. If you are a lazy person or not, I love this one, right? Actually, I think Mel Robbins talks about this is people always say, I'm not a morning person, right? Okay, cool. It's because you decided you're not. But if tomorrow I decided to wake up and say, I'm a morning person now, I'm a morning person.
Right.
And it's really and truly, it's all about a choice. When you make a choice, a very intentional choice, everything changes.
Really goes, touch on that real quick.
Happily, yes, absolutely can.
Because choices are one thing, but I think a lot of the work that you do is working on how can we make it so that choices don't feel like choices, but they're so ingrained in your nervous system that it just comes naturally. Instead of saying, I'm not a morning person, I am a morning person, the alarm goes off, and then you have to wake up and you say, oh, I hate waking up early, but I choose to do it.
Right.
That's painful and it's very difficult and it's not sustainable.
Right, it's like a punishment.
Exactly, it's like a punishment. But there's ways that you can actually ingrain into your psyche, ways to feel excited about getting up in the morning, ways to actually reward yourself for doing it and feel good about it and be excited to wake up early, because then you tie that into your identity and you tie that into the things that you want to become, and it becomes a lot easier. So I agree that it is the power of choice, but I also think that it's really important, especially someone in the Tony Robbins ecosystem, there's a lot of these things that he talks about instilling in your nervous system, really focusing on the pain and the pleasure, the Dickens process of what could go wrong if I don't do this, and how good could life be if I do, to the point where a choice is not a choice anymore, it's nature, it's your identity.
Yes. This is an amazing point. So this is going to get us down a rabbit hole for a second. We're going to go
finish the first one first.
No, this is good. So really it's about state management, right? So, and this actually ties into everything in the wheel of life and everything, but this is one of Tony's tools, another one, right? So it's the triad, and it really encompasses three things. Number one, physiology. So the quickest way to change your state, Ben, is your physiology. And you know this, right? Is like you feel unhappy, you get broken up with, whatever. If you get up, stop wallowing, stop eating the Ben and Jerry's, whatever it is that you're doing, and you get up and you go for a walk, now immediately you've changed your body. maybe where you were crying or, in a very, downward posture or just feeling very sad and upset about the world. Now you're walking, now you're looking at things. So number one, you're breathing, your facial expressions have changed, and you're physically doing something that changed the chemistry of your body.
Right.
So number one is physiology. We're thinking about facial expressions, breathing, like all of those things that encompass your body. Number two is your focus. You've got to change your focus. Where focus goes, energy is going to flow. So the second I stop thinking about the bad breakup and I start thinking about a really exciting project, right? Or maybe talking to a friend on the phone or something like that, everything is going to change. So focus comes next. And then we ask ourselves, what do we want to believe about ourselves? And I think this is where it really comes, into focus is you think about changing your identity. Well, the only way you're going to change your identity is if you really focus on what do I actually believe? Right? Am I a morning person? Am I a successful person? Do I really believe that I can, make anything happen? I can make magic happen? Or am I going around thinking I'm worthless, the shitty committee, like that inner critic, or, whatever might be going on in your head? Because as much as we have an alter ego, we have a villain. I like to say it's an inner critic, and it's the one that says like, you know what? You suck. You know what I mean? Or that haircut you had when you were 4, everybody was like looking at you and making fun of you in like preschool, whatever. So the next part, your beliefs are mandatory. And that's what will help you shift into a higher level identity. Yeah. And we can really go into that more. So it's focus and believe.
On the belief point, it's actually really funny because you're right. You can't change your identity if you don't believe it. You can't say, I'm successful, I'm going to be successful. You don't believe it.
Exactly.
And I know people that will write on their mirror, they say, I am happy, I am positive. And they're the most miserable people I've ever met. They just look in the mirror and they're like, I will smile, I will do the movement, I will say the thing, I will do it every day, but not a part of them believes it.
Yeah.
And I know that Tony's done this thing where he would say it, and you can't just say it, but you have to say it with emotion. You have to believe it. You have to really integrate it. And there's definitely something that they're missing in that process because they just don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, you can't integrate it into your identity. But if you don't do any of that, and you do have that identity, that will all come naturally.
Sure.
Like, I identify as lucky.
Yes.
And
yes, you do. And I know this about him, by the way. Like, when I first met him, he's like the luckiest guy. You are. You make magic happen.
I truly am. And I identify as lucky. And by doing that, my brain is always wired to look for an excuse to say I'm lucky. So someone who says I'm unlucky, bad things always happen to me, they're wired to always find a reason to say, see, I told you, I'm unlucky.
That's really powerful.
I'm wired to always find a way to say, look, this happened, it's good. And then something that other people would have just glazed over and not seen, I see it, I jump on it, and then I say, ha, look, I'm lucky. And this is the exercise Tony likes to do where he says, all right, look around the room, I want you to point, okay? Find everything that's red, red, red. Look for everything that's red, look for everything that's red. Now close your eyes, and now tell me everything that you saw that's green. And no one can do it because where focus goes, energy flows.
Yes.
And people who are looking for red will find red, and people looking for green will find green. It's like when you buy your car, you see it everywhere. When you get a dog, you see it everywhere. You didn't see it anywhere before.
Yes.
Now imagine that you're starting a business, and then you're looking for opportunities for your business to succeed. Networking opportunities, conversations in the elevator that you wouldn't have heard, at the barber, all of those, an ad that you would have glazed over, research that you would have glazed over. All of that now, you jump on it in a way that you've never jumped on it before, and you take advantage of these opportunities that you never would have seen. So yeah, beliefs are very important.
Yeah, it's huge. It's such a good point. And it really just goes back to the where focus goes, energy flows. Because the more that you're focused on creating an opportunity or, what it is that you want to bring in or manifest or whatever, you're going to get it. And manifestation is a real thing. And your story has a lot to do with manifestation as well, right? Like you make magic happen. And I definitely want you to share that story more because like it's so inspiring to me. Like I've been so inspired by you, like ever since I've met you, and like everything that you've created is incredible, but you've done it with intention. I think a lot of times people do things impulsively, right? And they don't really have intention towards what they want to create, right? So the third part here, just to round out or to to make the triangle a full triangle, the triad, is the language. Because language is huge. And whatever you're saying to yourself in your car, in the shower, whatever, in the mirror, if you're saying, God, like, look at you, you're a mess. Like, this is why people don't love you. This is why you don't get opportunities, whatever it is, then you're going to live your life in line with that identity.
Yeah.
And that's that villain. And we all have one.
Yeah.
Like, we all have one, but I think it's more so about turning down the dial, because it's going to come up. But it's important just to turn down the dial and turn up the dial of the alter ego, so that core self that you were talking about earlier can take over.
Right.
And it can say, hey, listen, like, you're awesome. I believe in you. You're confident. You got this. We're going to make it happen. You're a freaking rock star, whatever you need to say. And then you say it over and over again until it sticks. Because repetition is the mother of mastery and skill. So you've got to be consistent.
I think it's more than just saying it. I mean, obviously you could say it with emotion, do all those things.
Sure.
But if every action that you take in your life goes against the thing that you're trying to say that you are,
right,
then you're never going to believe it. And not only will you not believe it, you will also hold resentment for yourself.
Yeah, you got to commit.
You have to not just commit, but you have to follow through.
You've got to follow through. Absolutely. So that's why we have these tools, right? RPM is the strategy of getting there. It also intertwines the psychology as well. But then you, number one, have to change your state. Because if your state is out of line with the identity that you want to create, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. And if you want to be that, that person at a certain level in your business, or, you have this idea of what that could look like. You look at these gurus, you look at models, people you want to model after. You look at their routines. They wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They do things to prime their state or cold plunge or whatever it is. You've got to ask yourself, and we're going to touch upon the alter ego in a second, but you've got to ask yourself, what does this person do? See, I remember, to be successful, but I remember in the beginning when I first met you, which is a really cool story. We should go over this sooner or later. But you shared with me that you left your job, right, as a banker. And, I don't want to speak for you.
No,
do you want to tell a story a little bit?
Why don't you talk a little bit about your alter ego, and then I'll talk about my story, because we've been jumping around a lot, and I don't want to. I know that's a really interesting topic.
It really is.
So let's close the loop on that.
Okay, so the alter ego.
Yeah. Who is your alter ego? How should I address you?
Oh my God. Okay, so I decided to create a new identity for myself because I found myself really sad, disappointed, unhappy, just not really loving myself. Just completely, to be honest, I was, heavier, like I'd gained weight. I was doing just destructive things. And what I didn't realize was I was really like thinking I needed to punish myself, because we live in a state of guilt and shame. And then the heavier that is, the more that we want to just kind of punish ourselves with things in life, food, whatever it is.
And
doesn't matter what it is.
This is an example of when you were telling yourself that you had to be a certain way and you were living incongruently with who you wanted to be.
That's right.
And that's where you start feeling so much guilt that you feel like you have to punish yourself.
That's so right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I hope that's a breakthrough for you, because like that was just for me, that was so good. It's a moment of decision when you decide, and honestly, it comes from a lot of pain, and you touched upon this earlier, is this leverage, right? It's pain or pleasure to change. And for me at the time, it was pain, man. It was bad.
I remember.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah. Aw. So, yeah, you were there with me in my darkest moments, and they were dark. It's like, even when you're light, and even when you want to help people and love people, if you're not doing that for yourself, my friend, what are you doing? Right? Because it's number one, it starts with you.
Help yourself before you help others.
That's right. And here's the thing. You can't help people from a suffering place.
Exactly.
So if you're suffering and you're a mom and you have 6 kids or whatever, and you're suffering, you can't help them grow.
Right.
You can't influence them.
Right.
You're too focused on the pain you're feeling.
Actually, something that I thought about the other day that I thought was really interesting is that fulfillment in life, a lot of it is from serving others.
Yeah.
But I also realized that fulfillment can happen. You could start serving others even if you have nothing. Don't get me wrong at all.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of fulfillment that you get from self-service through growth. Personal growth gives you a lot of fulfillment, but once you've kind of tapped that out, and then you're just living selfishly, that's when you have to start focusing on others and then spreading it. But I do think that the most effective path is to first work on self-growth, which is very fulfilling of a process, watching you become a better person and becoming more successful. But then after a certain point, you want to go and kind of move from one season of life into another, which is the giving back. And that's where you can't do that effectively in your later years unless you've served yourself very effectively in your earlier years.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's 2 points from what you just shared is contribution and progress.
Right.
So just remember this, fulfillment is not your achievements. Everybody thinks once I make this amount of money,
Right.
once I have the girlfriend, once whatever it is, right, that you want to create in your life or attract, it's not about fulfillment in that regards. It's all about progress. It's progress towards whatever it is. I've talked tons of times to clients and people that are super successful. They don't need to work another day in their life. And they're freaking miserable.
Right.
Right. And it's not everybody. I'm not saying everybody, but if you don't have a calling, you don't have a purpose, as we talk about, right? What are you living for?
That's living through ego incongruently with the self.
That's right.
Living for the Lamborghinis, living for the flashiness, living for the going out.
Yeah,
And then
external.
you
What's the
find
external
out
world?
Everything that you think that you should be as a rich person in that
Yes.
scenario has nothing to do with who you are as a person. And those two circles not having overlap causes entire misery.
Yes, it does, because it's not coming from the core self.
Correct.
And if you're not living intrinsically, right, and you're just looking at the external world, but you're not like looking at who you are inside, you're not going to feel fulfilled. And
Right.
therefore you won't be happy.
Right.
Because everybody's always chasing happiness,
They think they
thinking
are.
that. Yeah, they think that. They think that once they get there, and if this happens, then I encourage you now to say, how can I feel fulfilled now? What progress am I taking? And how am I pouring into me?
Well, I think that something you said there is really interesting is how do I feel fulfilled now, not how do I feel happy now?
Yes.
Because there's things that you
right.
could do that make you miserable going through the motions of
Yeah.
doing this super redundant task.
Yeah.
But then you built something you're so proud of.
Yeah.
And at what moment there were you happy? Throughout the process, happiness probably wasn't the primary emotion that you felt. You probably felt exhausted, but motivated and determined.
Yes.
And you felt like these very fierce emotions in a positive way. And you had this energy that you were directing into something creative or positive. But during that point, you probably wouldn't say, I'm struggling right now to figure this out. Please leave me alone so I can focus. Also, I'm really happy.
I'm so happy right now. This is so fun. I'm
But
struggling.
if you think about, like, at the end of the day, the people who chase happiness are the ones who end up miserable, and people who chase
Yeah.
fulfillment are the ones who end up happy.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
really it comes down to what is fulfilling, not what makes me happy.
Yeah, exactly. There's a huge distinction there. And I think also people try to figure out and quantify how they can feel that level of happiness and trying to chase something. They think it's
Yeah.
elusive. And truly, Ben, it comes down to 2 things. It comes down to fulfillment and it comes down to gratitude. How can you be even more thankful and grateful for what you have now? Right? Because then you get more opportunities. And how can you find fulfillment with yourself and who you truly are? And you know what that comes from, and I'm going to touch upon the alter ego, is consistency. It's all about doing what you say you're going to do and doing it consistently. So now you're like stacking. I love the book Atomic Habits because it talks about how once you do something over and over again, you build trust with yourself. And once you build trust with yourself, you know that you're not going to break a promise.
Right.
Because the second you break it with yourself, you're going to be more than willing to break it with the world.
Right.
But you never want to do that to yourself. So I encourage you, wherever you are in your life right now, put my coach hat on. Wherever you are in your life right now, think about one commitment, right? You could make from seeing this video that would get you just one step closer to whatever it is that is your result, right? We go back to RPM.
Yeah.
It all goes together. Massive action.
And actually, a really interesting thing about Atomic Habits is the way that it's framed by the authors. It's more about the consistency of taking the action than it is about the result.
Yeah,
If
it's
you're
true.
chasing the result, you might not actually do the consistency of action. This is something Hormozy touches on a lot as well. He said, just do the thing, do it consistently.
Yeah.
Always do it as much as you can and don't stop doing it. If you know the output you want and you know what input gets the output, just do the input and don't miss. And then you'll find a lot of self-value and self-trust as you talk about by actually just holding yourself to be able to do the things that you know you need to do in order to get the result that you're after, even if the result is not immediate. But you know, if I do these things, one day I will get the result. I don't know what day it will be, but I do know the more of these things that I do and the more consistently I do them, that the sooner it will come.
Yes.
And so that's where you build trust with yourself is, do I do these things that I tell myself I want to do and that I need to do in order to become the person I become? And now Bree had a little issue where she was saying that she wanted to be a certain thing. She wanted to achieve certain goals, but she wasn't acting congruently with those things. Yeah. And I think you had a little bit of a lack of self-trust for a little bit, which came back into this whole,
big time. It was
this
heavy.
whole alter ego.
Yeah, no, it was huge. I did not trust that I would wake up. I did not trust that I would follow through with certain commitments. And then what does that do? That makes the world not trust you, right? Yeah. So then you go from being someone that...
I mean, I loved you, but I didn't trust you to do certain things.
Yeah. See, isn't that interesting? It's true.
I was always there for you, but I kind of knew that when you would say something, when you were in that state, that those words would come out, and then I knew that I'd get a call or a text in the future.
It's true.
And it would not be aligned.
You're
and I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but
no, it's good.
This is old Bree. Now I want to talk about this new identity and this new person you are.
Yeah. No, I like that you said that. We're keeping it raw and real here. We're keeping it transparent. You can only take people as far as you've gone or you're willing to go. So yeah, that version of myself was not congruent with the alter ego version that I wanted to become. And so I, kind of go through the grid. I don't have to go into deep detail. I can, but I was just in a nutshell, waking up late in the afternoon, missing calls, missing appointments, missing commitments, and just giving up, just giving up on everything, truly. And thinking that time was just going to stand still, and wait for me. As you're, on this phone and you're flipping through Instagram and you're looking at everybody's life and you're like, oh, I wish I had that. I wish I could do this, whatever. And then you feel all this guilt. You feel the shame. You want to eat more. You want to be on social media, whatever is your addiction, And I just found myself one day, like, I can't fucking do this anymore, for lack of a better word. And I watched this video, and I've got to give her credit. Natalie Dawson, she works with Grant Cardone and Elena, and she said something that really got to me. She says, in order to get to where you want to get to, you've got to leave where you are, and you've got to change. You got to kind of kill the old identity and move towards a new one, because that one's not going to go with you, right? So it's really a self-evaluation and then an understanding of, what skin you want to shed in order to become the new. So what she said was, go to your closet. Seriously, guy or girl, doesn't matter. It's like, go to your closet. What would you not wear as this identity? Right. What's this person's name? How do they show up in a room? Right. I'm about fashion. So I'm like, well, what would she wear? How would she present herself? What are the things she would say? What books would she read? What are her routines and rituals? I mean, we can go through it all. I mean, it's really creating this identity in all aspects, right? So it's really important to get very clear about the vision. And for me, it was creating a vision board. I would highly suggest doing a vision board so that you can see it. And then visualizing what you want. And the biggest component is being able to close your eyes and see what you want, be in that body, right? And for me, that body was like 13 pounds less. Mm-hmm. And it was me walking around in it, feeling really great, like naked and like feeling good again, feeling sexy and vibrant in the way I wanted to feel. And something I'll tell you is, when you close your eyes and you visualize, the mind doesn't know the difference between what it vividly imagines and reality. And it truly doesn't. Mm-hmm. So the more you see it and the more you feel it and the more you step into it and you embrace the little triad that we created earlier, now we're really talking, right? So I created this alter ego. Her name is Sophia. Okay. So I love that name. I think it's a sexy name. So I did everything it took to really embody her with my rituals and routines. So what did I start doing? I finally got the membership to do cold plunge and sauna. I finally did it. I used to talk about it all the time. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I did that. I ripped things out of my closet. I made commitments to myself. I made a list of all my old beliefs and all my new beliefs, and I used ChatGPT to design this version. And I highly suggest being resourceful and using your resources to do that. So that was important for me. And then I would say every morning, and truly, I really would, and I can look and tell you this, I'd say, I'm Sophia, Sophia is me, and I'm no longer Bree. And anytime that part of me that would come up and say, oh, you could push this, or you could pretend this, whatever, I was like, no, I'm Sophia now. So it's like, it's a different energy. It's a different way of coming, into the room, into your life again. So that's what I did. I created it. It's literally every place that I can look. Like, it's on my wallpaper. It's, everywhere I can see it. So when it comes to creating an alter ego, it can come from a place of pain. Like, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, I don't know how I'm going to find fulfillment. I don't know what I want to do next. I'm not happy with my current habits and things like that. Just decide that today you're going to change it, because change happens like that. And you never look back. So once you do the things you say you're going to do consistently, you never, ever look back. And the really cool thing is, once you work on your internal, your external environment starts to reflect that. So people now trust you. People now rely on you, right? It's different.
Yeah. It builds up the world around the identity that you have.
Yeah, and
People
it's like
talk
magic.
People talk about manifestation and all that stuff. I'm not the type of person that believes that.
I do, but
if I believe something, that the world magically creates it for me. I do believe that if you are someone who carries themselves confidently and is trustworthy and is known as XYZ, and also, like we talked about, if your mind is looking for certain things,
right,
that you will create that world just by statistical probability of, all right, what is karma?
He's my science guy. He's like, this is the probability.
What is karma? If I punch someone in the face, they're more likely to punch me in the face.
Yeah, right.
If I commit a crime, I'm more likely to go to jail. If I help somebody, they're more likely to help me.
Sure,
and you don't always have to do good things because you want something in return. You have to avoid doing bad things because you're afraid of the consequences. But I do believe that there is this kind of mathematical equation behind doing good to good things happening to you, being confident to people giving you opportunities. And a lot of this identity stuff is really interesting. And I've done work on my identity, and this actually ties into where my kind of growth story begins.
Yeah.
Because I went to college, and when I went to college, this is like my villain origin story.
I'm intrigued.
I went to college and I tried to join a fraternity, but I was pretty weird, honestly. I don't think I was socialized correctly as a kid. Sorry, mom and dad. I don't know what went wrong.
Plug your ears.
But I don't know. I had like a weird sense of humor. I didn't know how to carry myself correctly. I was a skater kid. I got validation out of getting attention by doing like crazy tricks and out of pocket things. And then I tried to join a fraternity.
Okay.
And I actually managed to get accepted as a pledge into a fraternity, which is great. And I kicked and screamed the whole way through to the very end. And the last week before initiation, they voted and kicked me out because I was too weird.
I did not know this. This is news to me. I know a lot about Ben, but I don't know this.
Yeah. And this is where I decided to have an identity change.
Huh.
I had a bunch of skinny skater jeans. I had the Justin Bieber haircut, like the,
the swoop.
Like, sorry, my hair's in my eyes. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I had motorcycles and skateboards. Actually, my dormitory wall was lined with broken skateboards. They were like trophies to me, because if I tried to go off some crazy big ledge and I landed in the middle of the board, it broke, I was like, okay, I tried something crazy. You can't break a skateboard by trying something like on the flat ground that's stupid. For me, it was a trophy.
Yeah.
I took, at the end of the semester, all the skateboards off my wall. I took all the clothes out of my closet, and I had a very small car, and I just threw everything in the dumpster, and I sold my motorcycles. I just went home, and I'm like, all right, time to start over. And I recreated my identity as like a frat guy.
Oh, okay.
I did it so badly, right? I was still trying to figure it out. I bought like the polo and the boat shoes.
Yeah.
That
Well-
was ego. That's what do I think I'm supposed to be.
Sure.
I threw away parts of me that were part ego and part self.
Right.
Both. I couldn't distinguish between the two. And I recreated a new identity that was almost entirely ego. And so then my life in college just became trying to become a frat guy, and I got into a new fraternity, and I was drinking every night, and I was trying to get girls, and I was doing all the things that I thought were cool in a fraternity, and I was still pretty weird. But I was figuring it out.
We're all weird, are we not?
I was really weird. But we were learning. And
Yeah, learning.
through that, I did not care about school. I didn't care because the area of my life that my ego was tied up in was becoming a guy who's not kicked out of the fraternity, not accepted in the fraternity, but is the guy that people in fraternities now look up to. I was so distraught and rejected by that experience, which was a pretty traumatic experience because like all the sorority girls know you, all the fraternity guys know you, you got kicked out. It's like a real exile for someone that age. And that's what my identity became. And then I came around to like junior, senior year, and my dad had owned a business, and him and I were butting heads. And he was paying for my phone, my car, everything. And I was like, I don't want you holding over my head that you're paying for my stuff to control me. But I mean, legitimate concerns. Like, your grades suck. I was like, hey, you're mean, Dad.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know. And I basically said, I don't believe that your views, and this is like when I've done some inner work, I found that a lot of what drives me is me trying to prove my dad's views wrong and my views right. And I said, I don't like your worldviews. I don't want to take your money. I don't want to do what you tell me. I'm going to figure it out myself, and I'm going to figure out how to do it better and the opposite of what you've always told me to do. And so I became determined to do that. And at this point, I had no car, I had no money, I was living in a crappy fraternity house, and I had bad grades. I had literally nothing. And this was going into like my junior year, maybe even like the second half of my junior year of college. I didn't know what the hell to do. I had no money, I couldn't pay rent. So a guy in the fraternity, he's like, well, across the street is student housing, and they need a janitor. I said, fine, I will be a janitor just so I can pay my damn rent. I couldn't drive, so I could walk there. It was kind of ideal. So I had this job, and now this is between the spring semester and the summer semester when everyone moves out. After everyone moved out, everyone threw everything away, and the parking garage of this facility was so full of trash that the garbage room was up to your basically waist of trash.
Yeah.
And the entire summer, I spent every morning literally sifting through garbage with a shovel, putting in trash cans, and then lugging it down one by one. And then the second half of the day, I'd go sweeping the hallways, sweeping the garage, and fixing light bulbs and doing all that stuff. And that entire time, instead of saying this is gonna be my life, what I decided to do was try to figure out what to do next. And I saw being a janitor as an opportunity because this means I have 8, 10, 12 hours a day where I don't have to talk to anyone. So I just downloaded audiobooks, and I would just listen to audiobook after audiobook after audiobook. It started with like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then as I was talking to someone, he's like, oh, you and my dad would probably get along very well. He introduced me to his dad. His dad's, I don't think he was a billionaire at the time, but I think he is now.
Yeah.
And his dad is the greatest guy ever. And he proactively offered to be my mentor.
Wow.
And the first thing that he said is, while you're listening to those audiobooks, the next one you need to listen to is Tony Robbins.
Really?
And I think it was Unleash the Power Within.
Yeah.
Whatever one, he starts with him being in a helicopter and there's a traffic jam. And he's like,
Going to the Michael Jackson concert, I think, or one of the...
Well, there's a traffic jam because he was having a seminar and he couldn't believe it. And that's when he had his moment that he had made it.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so that's where I started with. And it was so powerful
Yeah.
that it quite literally changed the trajectory of my life. And
holy shit, I didn't know this.
yeah, so that was my villain origin story, was Tony Robbins basically yelling in my ear for 8 hours a day until I got my shit together. And so I still had no money, but I would do a lot of work because I was like, I will prove this right. I joined clubs that weren't fraternities. The Young Investors Club was the largest club in the College of Business. And I quickly got elected to 3 executive positions. I learned after that, I was like, oh, public markets, you know, passive investing versus active investing. A lot of people have their views. I took the Warren Buffett position, which is you do all that you want in the world and still not beat the market. But the show Shark Tank's pretty cool. Not only do they invest, but they can actually make a difference in the companies they invest in. So I was like, all right, how do you become a venture capitalist? All right, step 1, get really good grades in high school. Step 2, go to really good college. Step 3, get really good grades at this college. Step 4, get an internship at an investment bank. Step 5, get invited back. Step 6, work at this investment bank for a bajillion hours a week until you want to die. And then after that, maybe you could work in venture capital. I was like, okay, well, I already screwed up the first half of that. So what is a hack that I could do in order to break in? And so I founded the Private Equity Venture Capital Club. And I recruited people who were interested in this world of private investing, or I would sell it as like way cool. I was like, you guys know Shark Tank? Imagine being the shark.
Okay. Make it enticing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, reach out to every investment banker, every venture capitalist, everyone that works in private equity. You're all co-founders now, and invite them to speak. And then we would get person after person after person to speak at our club.
Wow.
And then we would invite them all to dinner after. And then every single person, which was not a big club, it was like 20 people, but every single person in that club, it was one semester. Every single person in that club got a job or internship in venture capital, private equity, or investment banking, which is unheard of coming out of a school like UCF, especially for nitwits like me that had a 2.9 GPA. And so that was kind of where I realized that if you take an alternative path, but you know what you want, that anything is possible. And so I was working an unpaid internship at an angel investment network, which is like you have people with very low net worths investing in companies that have absolutely no traction. And I was stoked about it because I'm like, people are applying. I'm the first line of defense.
Yeah.
I get to call them, ask questions about their business as if I know what the hell I'm talking about. This is amazing. But then I get there and the people there are like, oh, well, what we want to do working in this thing that you thought was the end goal is we want to find a unicorn type company that we can work for, take equity, grow it, and then make a bunch of money when it sells. And I was like, oh, now I want to do that too. And I was like, oh, operations sounds cool, running a business. So programmed my mind to try to find that, started looking for that. When I was getting ready to graduate, I could just stay with that business, but I started putting feelers out there, reached out to all the people that spoke at my club, and one of the venture capitalists said, oh, there's actually a small company nearby that seems really promising. You should interview. I went and interviewed, and then when the interview was done, the guy was just like, do you want the job? You can have the job, just take the job. It's like, okay. He's like, comes with equity, and it came with way higher pay than I thought I would get. So I was like, this is amazing.
Yes.
And so I got equity. There was like 20, maybe 30 people at the company at the time. And then I just worked very independently and taught myself how to do spreadsheets, taught myself how to do financial models, taught myself everything. There was one guy that would come in every Friday. He was a VC, and he would just kind of realign me and teach me how to think. And then I would just work independently throughout the week. And we did this and scaled up to like 400 employees, raised over $100 million on Safe Notes. And this is when Safe Notes were brand new. So like Stanford was doing case studies on us as how you could use Safe Notes to actually scalably raise money for the first time. And then eventually we got to a point where we wanted to hire a CFO. Funny enough, former regional CFO of Nissan was speaking at my old club, meeting with him, ended up hiring him, and that was great, but then it got boring. Because then I was doing FP&A work, I was like balancing budgets, I wasn't raising money, it wasn't nearly as fun. But I did think that it was cool that my other buddy who worked in VC, because I did this thing in college, I just had all these VC connections all of a sudden. I was like, okay, I know all these venture capitalists. He was going out and working on, instead of issuing the money, working on it, how he can raise money himself for other people so that one day he could do it for himself. And he was really good at building decks. And I was like, oh, I know how to build financial models. And we had hired at the company I was at an investment bank. And I was like, this is so cool. They get to work with all these super awesome startups, and they get to not just work with one, but work with many over and over and over again. And they're just raising money for them. So I had to answer a bunch of questions for them. They're like really digging in. I was like, this is awesome. And they got to deal with all the investors anymore. I had to sit in the corner. And so I said, I want to do that. I don't know what the heck that is, but I want to do that. So we partnered up and we started this little company called Starter Cycle. He had the name and a logo and it was a whole little thing. And we were like, all right, let's go help founders raise money. It's probably illegal to do that if you have like a commission fee. I didn't know. I didn't care. Even if I found out, I probably wouldn't care. I'd be like, let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, we were getting like a couple little clients. We're like, we'll only take money if we raise money. Like, just kind of entry level stuff. It's kind of like a gateway drug into entrepreneurship. But when that happened, and this is why it's like crazy how lucky I am. I started this unicorn, and then now I'm doing this like fake investment banking.
Fake until you make it. Yeah.
Coincidentally, this guy who had formerly founded an investment bank, grew it, sold it to a Wall Street bank as their technology arm, had decided to leave that bank, moved right down the street from me, and started a brand new investment bank. And then I get a DM on LinkedIn one day, and he said, hey, I interviewed someone that knows you, and he said that you're interested in raising capital, and you have a background doing financial models. Would you like to come in for an interview? Now, I don't know if you know anything about the world of investment banking recruitment. It is harder to get into than professional sports in terms of the statistics of the amount of people that apply versus the amount of people that get in.
Wow.
It is one of the, if not the most competitive field in the world. And I just got this magical little DM in my inbox saying, hey, you want to play this investment banking game for a little bit? So I'm hella lucky. First, I work for a tech unicorn. Then I get this, Silicon Valley experience. Then I get this Wall Street opportunity. I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And now my identity changes to investment banker. I start wearing the button downs. I got the vest. I got the loafers. I am now full investment banker identity.
You're a finance guy.
I'm a finance guy. And I was a little bit back to that when I was like a tech Silicon Valley guy. I was a little bit different. Now I'm like, I'm banker Ben. Like this is who I am. And so I started doing investment banking. And I remember like my first weekend there, which I'll never forget, because I'd worked Monday to Friday. I worked like kind of late hours, but I was feeling good about it. And then this was in probably December in Florida. And so it was like a beautiful no cloud day outside. My buddy from my last company said, hey, you want to go play Frisbee golf together? I was like, I've never played Frisbee golf. It's beautiful outside. That sounds like so much fun. Let's go play Frisbee golf. As I'm getting ready to play Frisbee golf, I get a text saying, hey, I need you to come to the office. I said, could it wait? They're like, you must be new here. No, I can't wait. Come on in.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. I texted my other buddy. I was like, hey, I got to go to the office real quick. I'll probably be done in a little bit. So I go into the office, and they said, we have a pitch on Monday. We need the deck turned tonight so that we could do comments tomorrow, finalize it, button it up, and then fly somewhere on Monday.
Oh, wow.
I said, okay, fine. What do you need from me? They're like, you have to do this section. I said, all right, I'll do it. I started doing it. I tried to like automate it. They said, no, you can't do that. Like the data is not as good. You have to use your eyeballs and your brain, actually think about it. If we could automate it, you wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have hired you in the first place.
Yes.
And so I'm working. I'm like, almost done. And then I keep working. Almost done. Keep working. Hey, I don't think I'm going to make it. Next thing I know, it's 2 a.m.
Oh, man.
on a Saturday because I had to get out that night. I sent it out at 2 a.m. and at 2:30, I get an email back from my VP who worked later and harder than I did saying, here's all the changes I need done tomorrow. Worked all day Sunday,
Ooh.
had to fly on Monday, had to work the entire flight, had to fly back same day, had to work the entire flight, and I was like, okay, this is my life now. Did that for 2 years, 60, 80. There were occasional weeks where I'd have to work 100 hours. And I don't know if you can do the math for how much work per day that is, but it's you don't sleep. And then COVID happened. And because of COVID, I started working from home. And I had roommates. And so I was on the second floor. And on holidays, I would watch all my friends in the backyard. We had a lake house. I'd watch them all hanging out together. I just worked through that. And I was like, this is not what I want for my life.
Yeah, it's not living.
It's not living. But if you love it, like my VP, my managing director, the guy who started like multiple investment banks, guy lives for it. And he loves it.
Yeah.
And he will do it forever and he will feel fulfilled. Me, I was living incongruently. Banker Ben was my ego. That was not who I am. So I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I was determined to get out of there. I collected my last bonus after 2 years and said, hey guys, this is not for me.
Yeah.
We ended on really good terms though. And so they've actually helped me out a couple times after that. After that, I decided I know now not what I want to do, but what I don't want to do.
That's powerful.
It is. And like I learned from my dad, certain methods that I didn't want to do and identities that I didn't want to be for right or wrong. I also learned that there were certain things in a career that I always thought that I wanted that I actually didn't. And that's when I kind of actually started my journey to figure out who I truly am and what I actually want to do with my life. So I started winning clients immediately, actually, and I said, hey, I'll do strategic work. I'll prepare you for sale. I can't actually run the transaction because I found out against, there's regulations around that. Side note.
Yeah. Small print.
I started winning clients so fast that I was then just upping how much I was charging for each client. I went from like $75 an hour to $125 an hour, and I just worked my way all the way up to $225 an hour. And then I was like getting more referrals at $225 an hour that I could handle. And I actually ended up bringing on a buddy who reached out to me on LinkedIn. And so then I kind of started this journey of working with this guy who I knew in college. He was working for free. He was me like a few years ago, kind of going through I quit my job. I don't know what I want to do. I think what you're doing is really interesting. I'll work for you for free to build it up.
Wow.
And then we started winning clients together. And then that's when I got connected to this guy named Jared. Jared is one of those people that you come across and you don't realize it, but he's about to completely change your life.
Holy shit. If that's not like a statement, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and actually Tony Robbins knows Jared. He's heard his story, but Jared actually went to a Tony Robbins event and went through all the exercises. And then the next week after leaving the event, he made like $1 million for the first time in his life. And then he's told this story and it's been on the annual things that he hosts every January. What are those called?
Like the summit?
Yeah, the
kind of
summit,
things?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
like
so
Time to Rise.
Yeah, Time to Rise, exactly.
Yeah, Time to Rise.
So Jared's been featured on the Time to Rise. So I met Jared.
So cool.
And I remember Jared pitching me some idea. He said, hey, I met this guy. He had rolled up a bunch of Amazon companies and he has really high valuation. I know nothing about M&A, but I want to do that with Shopify. I said, this guy's crazy. I was like, okay, look, if you pay my hourly rate, I'll look into it for you.
We'll see about that.
I was like, ugh. So I started doing this, and the more we look into it, there's this whole ecosystem. I said, this is actually a feasible business model. And he said, I'm very impressed with the work that you've done. Your hourly rate's very high. Would you like to come on as a co-founder, and then I'll pay you less, but you'll get equity as a co-founder in this roll-up? I said, okay. So then January comes around, and we try to do a roll-up. And we just start reaching out to all these companies in the Shopify ecosystem. And we found that we could actually make offers to people and they would take them seriously. And I said, hey, I'm Ben. I have no money, but if I were to raise money, would you sell to me for this? And then we would sell them on the vision. We said, look, alone you're doing this, but together we could do that. And if we combined everything and made you a partner in this thing that we're building, your life would be easier and you'd make more money. And they said, I like that. And at this time, we had met some other guy. He was like some Harvard MBA, and he was like telling us he was doing the same thing. We're like, screw this guy. I started putting exclusivity in the agreements that these guys would sign. I was kind of like ripping the carpet out from the other guy. And we were like, all right, we have actually a portfolio of LOIs that people have signed. Let's go raise money. We went through a whole process with an investment bank. We ended up getting 7 LOIs, I think. They were all around like $60 million. And they were like, we will help you buy these, and then we will fund the future acquisitions that you want to purchase of companies. Wow. Mind you, I only had 2 years of experience with an investment bank, only 2 years of experience as an operator in a tech startup. And then people were ready to put tens of millions with backing of up to hundreds of millions of dollars behind us just off an idea, because we were able to sell other people on a vision and get them to sign a piece of paper, which was crazy. So this was going into 2022. I don't know if you know what happened in 2022, but the stock market crapped out.
Yeah.
It dropped a lot. Shopify lost, I think, peak to trough, like 80% of its market cap.
Wow.
This was after we got our LOIs and we were going to IOI, after we got our IOIs and we were going to the process of actually closing, everyone pulled their offers out. Oh, well. I said, well, this was fun. At least we tried.
Yeah, right.
See ya.
See you later.
And he goes, well, I actually have this other company called Zendrop. I do really like working with you. Would you like to come on board and help try to grow this business into something that we could eventually, sell or do a merger with? You know, your background's in M&A, you have a little bit of operations, I'm impressed with whatever it was, right? And I thought about it. I wanted to get back into operations and not do transactional work because I wanted to build something. You know, transactional work is like one to another, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I want to build something. And I said, all right, let's do it. And then the guy Cheyenne that I had brought along with me, that he was kind of working under me, brought him along too. And so now we both had salaries at this company. And we were sitting down one day and doing a whiteboard session. And we're like, it's a good idea. We did, all right, so the company's been flat for like 3 years. It's like teetering on profitability. It's kind of in and out. A lot of the customer is very difficult. The retention metrics are very difficult. Can we actually sell this thing? I don't know, but let's try. Let's just give it our all and see what happens. So we did, and in 2 years, we managed to grow revenue 7x and then generate 20% EBITDA margins. And then we completed a merger. Funny enough, remember how I said I threw that guy under the bus he was some Harvard MBA guy, he was competing with us, he was trying to do a roll up too. He rolled us up. And now we're buddies and we work together.
Wow.
And so that was just a crazy turn of events. And now ever since the merger, we've now grown to over 10x revenue growth. And now we have a portfolio of companies. And now we have backing of other investors. And now we have the ability to go out and even buy other companies and do other things. We've grown from 20 people to 200 people. And it's this whole roller coaster that you could never foresee, that only happens if you believe that things are possible and you just work as hard as you can. And this art of moving away from things that you know you don't want and then moving toward things that you do want, and tying up your identity and making sure that you just input output. You do the things that you need to do in order to succeed, and then you just live with the consequences. Just like after the whole roll up didn't work, I was not distraught. I was not upset. And guess what? I actually got a larger ownership stake in this company, and we actually raised at a higher valuation than we did for the whole portfolio before.
Oh,
so it actually worked out even better.
Yeah.
And now I have a much clearer path to like $1 billion company than we did with just this kind of smaller roll up before. So it's really a crazy story of how can I learn who I am by learning what I don't like, and moving toward what I think I do like, and jumping in with both feet every time and just going all in and never looking back. So that's kind of my story on how I got here, and hopefully it's very early on in the journey and not toward the end.
Well, that was the climax. Now we're like, no, it's such an incredible story. And I just learned so many things I didn't even know about you. So that's amazing. I can appreciate your growth and your journey. Like, wow, people need to hear that, you know? And I think another point of this is like, when there's risk and there's opportunity, it's like preparation plus opportunity equals success. If you didn't have the background, right, in finance, if you didn't push yourself, right, if you didn't listen to those books as a janitor.
If I didn't hate my dad when I was a teenager, just like everyone hates their dad when they're a teenager.
Yeah.
Just like I think Tony likes to say, if I had the parents that I wanted, I wouldn't be the man that I'm proud to be.
That's what he
today.
says. It wouldn't be Tony Robbins if I did. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Because nothing drove me more than that.
Wow.
And then it's really funny because I used to chase all these ego things for success around proving that. And then I met you at a Tony Robbins event, and she actually pushed me to do some inner child work and call my dad for the first time. And I hadn't spoken to him in like 2 years. And I just forgave him. And now my dad, with all of his flaws, is like my guy. And we text every day.
Oh,
And
I
he
love
actually, you know, Father's Day had passed kind of recently. He told me it was his dream to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And he was talking about how it's like expensive because you have to get a guide and there's less equipment. And before, younger Ben would have been like, I hope you don't achieve your dreams. You know?
I hope that never happens.
But, you know, the Ben I am today was like, well, happy Father's Day. Here's the $1,700. Go live your dream. And he was so moved and he was so happy. And I felt so good, so much better than like if I were in this state of I don't want to talk to my dad anymore.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He's my dad. And like he's a human being. And I was a kid. And now I feel so much better by being able to support him than I did or would have felt if I achieved my goal when I was a teenager of I want to start a competing company and put his out of business or something stupid like that.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think that when you operate out of a place of love, that it brings you a lot more calmness and joy and fulfillment than when you operate out of spite to push yourself to do these ego-driven things that are not you.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many great things that you shared. I think that when it comes to, you know, when you have someone in your life, and a lot of times it's somebody who's holding you back, and it could be a family member, it could be just someone who just puts you down and tells you, you know, you can't do this or blah, blah, blah. You can use that as, you know what, forget the world. I hate it. I'm not going to do anything about it. You know, be in a constant state of passivity, like allowing things to just happen around you and not taking charge and, you know, being intentional. Or you can say, you know what, that's great that you feel that way. That's okay. But this is who I really am. And these are the choices I'm going to make because I decide to. And you can use that as fuel. And that's what Tony did, because Tony had a very abusive family, right? A mom who beat the shit out of him, truly, for lack of a better word, because he shares it like that. And he also tells a story about on Thanksgiving how they did not have food. Somebody came to the door and he decided, you know, the stranger came and decided, I'm going to, you know, give food. And he didn't even know him. And he's like, you know what? It inspired something in him at a young age to say, I want to see how many people I can feed for the rest of my life. And Tony's fed billions of people now.
Well, how did his dad react when the guy brought the food over?
Yeah, he slammed the door.
Slammed the door in the guy's face. That guy was operating out of ego.
He was. It took away something from him.
Tony knew what he wanted to move away from and what he wanted to move toward, both in that interaction.
He was. It took away something from him.
Tony knew what he wanted to move away from and what he wanted to move toward, both in that interaction.
Yeah, exactly. So when you made the choice, when we had the time that we had, which was incredible, transformational for you and your dad, is like, wow, you know, I could look at my dad and his shortcomings, and that could drive a wedge between us for the rest of our lives. Or we could find what brings us together and what I could greatly appreciate about this man. Yeah. Because I always say this is, and Tony says this, is we're only doing what we can with the tools that we have, right? Some of us have more tools than others. And it's important to just respect and appreciate other people and their journey, because not everyone's going to be where you are and you're not going to be where they are. There's another thing, my therapist talks about this all the time. Bruce always says, appreciate the gap. Appreciate where you are and where they are, and that their journey is going to be vastly different than yours and vice versa. And you can love that person from afar. And even if that person's not someone you want to have in your life, you could still love and appreciate them for who they are, right?
Big gaps between when I reply to his text sometimes, but I always reply.
Yeah. It's about the effort and the intention.
Yeah, totally.
And the love.
Exactly.
Always share the love.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, actually, there's a lot of kind of side quests that we could go down. But one thing that you had said about when you were living in a state of suffering was something along the lines of life passing you by and that you were just letting it. Do you remember what that was? Maybe not exactly those words.
I do.
Time, something about time.
Yeah. So this is back when I was suffering, right? And consciously, really knowing that, you can play two roles in your life. You can be a victim. I played that very well, by the way. I think I think I still do, honestly. And honestly, it kind of
but
comes.
Sophia doesn't.
No, Sophia does not. No, she does not. But it's, I had a great childhood, very charmed, lovely, for lack of a better
Dad's
term.
awesome.
My dad's the bomb. My dad is like my everything. And I've shared so much with Ben about my dad. My dad's like my Tony. And he really is. He has all the tools. He had an abusive father, beat the shit out of him. And that my dad was very, very successful.
You got to be beat as a kid and then
Yeah.
be a janitor at some point. Those are like
Yeah.
the two keys to being successful.
Yeah, well, that's
Every
true.
rich guy's like, bro, when I was a janitor.
Yeah, when I was a janitor.
How are we all janitors?
We should probably do that. So my dad, I watched a very successful father, raised me with so much love and everything. And during the .com era, he came out with something called advertising on hold. So it's the first time anyone has ever created an advertising business when you're like, you call in any company. It's like, hey, thank you so much for calling Hilton. These are the discounts we have, blah, blah, blah. Back in the 90s, well, if we really want to go into this story, we can. It's a great
for
story
it.
on entrepreneurship.
I've done
That's
enough
for damn.
babbling. You can talk about your dad. It's okay.
So let's pause. You're not babbling.
No.
Everything you're sharing is truly needed. It's very incredible, and I want you to go into deeper detail.
Okay.
So with my dad, I watched someone who'd created all the success in his life and was able to give me, all those fruits of his labor, like truly just so many beautiful gifts. But where he started was the abusive father, all these things. But he always took that to appreciate the gap and to focus on how he could give back more, how he could contribute more. That's my dad. He's always looking for an opportunity to give and love and serve. Just my dad. But he's an entrepreneur at heart. So when he was finding himself really, really struggling, it's actually a really, really funny story. He had a credit repair company. So he was trying to repair everybody's credit, and he was like getting a hold of every credit company and all the books that they were using at the time. 'Cause it's all paper, right? Nothing was digital at the time.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, I'm going to copy and paste this. I'll Xerox this, whatever. And so he put something together. It was called Credit Plus. And he was actually late at night. He'd be on TV and be like, you need to choose Credit Plus, whatever. And he got to the point where he was getting all these, accounts, all these people, everything. And then they started going after him. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this story. I actually just found this out a couple weeks ago. The government. He got in a lot of trouble all of a sudden, and he was going to be sued, and he did not have the money. So it was over, I forgot how much, over 100 and something thousand. At this time, that would have been so much more at this time, right? Back then. Yeah. So it was really, really scary to him. And, you got this entrepreneur with all these great ideas, and he's really doing well. And all he had to shut everything down. He had to just put a pin in it. And it was doing very well at the time. And he told me he was really, really scared. And one day he decided, and I'm not sure in the turn of events this is a cool story. One day he was on the phone. He was trying to get his truck fixed. And at the time, he really didn't have any money. He was really, really trying to figure out how he's going to pay and all these back taxes. Government's calling him. He's freaking out. He's losing sleep, all this stuff. And he's on the phone. He's like calling Chevy or something like that. We could put the exact words, but he's calling, and there is an opposing company that's like, hey, come on down to, Toyota and buy a car, whatever. And in that moment, and truly, it's like that stroke of genius.
Yeah.
He was like, wait a second. This doesn't make sense. I'm going to create it. And he created it. He said, you know what? Gets back on the phone with Ford, and he's like, listen, I'm with advertising on hold. Came up with it in 5 seconds. He's like, I'm with advertising on hold. I'm a representative, not a CEO, right? Like, he's like, I'm being called, I'm being sent to you, and I'm going to show you our packages and everything. That night, he stayed up all night long. He created all the tapes, because it used to be tapes.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. So he literally just like came up with the whole thing, created the whole offering, showed up. Literally, at the time, it was like Parker Boats or something, right? Like, we're talking about cars, whatever, semantics. But he showed up, and that was his first customer. So he showed up. Yeah. And then after that, what's amazing is when he sold a few years later, it was still his customer right? His very first customer. So in that progression, I've watched a father who is a very successful entrepreneur. It has always driven me to like create a better version of myself. But yeah, his story is pretty awesome. And he sold to Muzak in 99. And then he's been playing and traveling ever since. But I think what I was trying to share with you before is that I've been given all these things and all these beautiful opportunities. But I think the world has seen me more as a spoiled brat, you know, and even guys that I've dated are like, oh, you're kind of a princess. You know, yeah, my stepbrother now is like, oh, you're kind of a princess. But I think it was like deciding, you know what, I'm not going to be a victim of what everybody thinks. I'm going to be a victor, and I'm going to decide that this identity is going to be in complete opposition of just that spoiled person or whatever. And it just comes back to nothing has meaning but the meaning that you give it, truly. So you decide, are you the victim or are you the victor? And how are you writing your story? Are you letting the villain take over, or are you really finding your purpose in your alter ego and that core self? So I think that all comes back together.
Yeah, I didn't know that about your dad. That's a crazy story.
It's a cool story.
The government leave him alone after that? Or?
He did. They let him alone. Yeah, it's amazing.
They left him alone.
They, those people, the black.
When they come for you, yeah. Just a shadowy figure.
It's scary.
But
it's
my question to you is about time.
Time, yeah, let's get back to time. So I'm always filled with quotes, but I live my life by them. I'm like little books with all my quotes I take from everybody. And I encourage you, from anything that Ben and I share or the people that we have come in, is like shamelessly steal it. You know, make it your own. It's not like, it doesn't matter. Like Tony's taken from the great people like, you know, Jim Rohn and, you know, whoever, right? There's all these great people we can take from information. But when it comes to time is our most valuable asset, right? So you've got to ask yourself, where am I spending my time, right? And is it pulling me forwards towards what I want, or is it pulling me backwards, right? Because whether you like it or not, time's gonna pass. We don't have control over how much time we have on this earth, right? So it's about being intentional with that.
Time is a scarce resource. Money's a renewable resource. You can always make more money. You're always running out of time.
Yeah.
And I had this really weird sensation as I'm 31. As a 31-year-old.
I'm 31 too.
Very important.
Very important.
I've had this crazy feeling like I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
But I'm 31. And I think I'm healthy. I don't think I'm about to die. So why do I have this insane sense of urgency? Like I have to do everything. And then I came across this book, 4,000 Weeks. Have you heard of this book?
I haven't heard of this book.
So I had shared some thoughts on this with somebody, and they said, you should look into this book called 4,000 Weeks. Basically, people live about 4,000 weeks. It's like 77 years old.
Ooh, that's morbid. Okay.
Well, it gets more morbid because they visualize it. They put a rectangle.
They do the boxes?
They do the boxes.
Oh,
and they're like, if you're 31, you're about here.
Oh.
And you can see how much you have left. And if you're older, then you can see you have very little left. And I was like, oh, no. But I started thinking about, why is it that I feel like I'm running out of time? And in the book, they say, if you try to do everything, you're never going to enjoy the moment. You'll never be present. And I started thinking about where I am, how old I am, and where I want to be relative to my age. And what I always thought was, at a certain age, I wanted a certain number in the bank. But over time, I realized that that's not everything that I want. And Tony talks about life happening in seasons. I don't know if he labels the seasons. I think about it like probably 4 seasons. You have like your childhood, you have kind of your early stage growth relationships and career, and then you have kind of your family, kids in the house, and then you have kind of your retirement, give back. I didn't get that framework from anywhere. That's just how my brain operates. And I thought about what season I'm in. I'm in the second season. I'm in the kind of growth, build relationships, do all the things that you want to do, be single, have fun. But I'm 31, and I wonder, where does that season end and where does the next season begin? And so then I realized that the sense of urgency isn't because I think I'm about to die or I think I'm about to run out of time, but it's, I don't have the things that may be limiting beliefs I need to do or accomplish in order to move on to the next season of my life. And for me, that involves kind of travel-related things and entrepreneurship-related things. And I don't even have to succeed. I don't have to see every country. I don't have to make a company and sell it. But I do have to do certain things I've been saying that I wanted to do my entire life, but have not done. And in my mind, and again, limiting beliefs, almost certainly, I say I cannot have a relationship as it is a distraction until I have at least attempted those things. And like, you know, you've stayed at my place before and I'm like, don't talk to me ever. I'm like, I'm working. I don't care. I worked till 2 a.m. last night.
I know.
I said, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
I just want to work. Like I'll eat dinner and I'll be engaging, but I'm not at a point right now where during like what I call school nights, weekdays, I don't want to have a drink. I don't want to go out. I don't want to be social. I don't want to do any of those things because I'm on a mission. I don't want to do that forever though. And I realized that I've kicked the can on these things for so long that my subconscious is ready to move on to the next stage in one regard, but in the other regard, it's fighting mad, doing everything it takes to not allow me to. And so with time, I think having a scarcity mindset is important to keep people motivated, but not in the sense that you feel like you have to do so much that you can't enjoy yourself. And I've created kind of a good balance where I travel a lot, I work a lot, I maintain my fitness. You know, last night we went to the gym for a little bit over an hour and still managed to work 16 hours a day. And on the weekends I have a social life and everything feels balanced and it feels good. But I do think that if I look at my calendar and broke it down into the 4 sections, that I'm running out of space in my current season, and that's where my urgency comes from.
So where do you think your rules lie right now?
I think my rules lie in promises that I've made to myself that I haven't kept. Ever since I was young, when I first graduated and I learned that Europe was a place that you can go, and then I went there for the first time, I said, holy crap, I have to live here. I want to be a nomad. I want to do all these things.
I remember you telling me these things.
Ever since like I first graduated, and a lot of people, especially in Europeans, they take time off. I went straight into the career thing, and now it's to the point where it's like, if I'm a 31-year-old staying in a hostel with a bunch of like 22-year-olds, it's a little bit weird. So like I've already pushed.
That's a little weird.
I've already pushed the barrier. At least now I can afford hotels and Airbnbs and stuff, so I don't have to do that.
Right.
But like that was the type of life that I wanted to live. That adventurous, like you never know what's gonna happen. And then once you have a family, it's like, okay, you could probably do some stuff, but the kids come first, and that becomes your priority. And then starting a company, it's something I want to give my all to. And I've worked for other people's companies and I've helped grow someone else's company. And it was like part of me, but it wasn't mine. It wasn't my identity. And I want to give all of myself to that. And so my rules come from always having identified as an entrepreneur, but never been an entrepreneur. I mean, I was a consultant twice, and I've been kind of an intrapreneur and worked for entrepreneurial organizations and worked in funding, helping get capital raised for entrepreneurs, and then banker helping entrepreneurs sell. But I always wanted to be that entrepreneur. Yeah. And I've never done it. And so I think it's time. And like, it's time. I have to keep those promises to myself, and I don't want to be distracted or tied down by something that could take me away from the mission. Yes. And so like what they talk about in 4,000 Weeks is, you know, Warren Buffett said to a pilot that asked him, which I do for life advice. He said, write down the top 20 things you want to do with your life. Okay. Now order them 1 to 20, and now take the top 5 or 4, circle them, and then rip off the bottom paper and throw in the trash. Just do those 4 things.
Wow.
That's
Simplify.
It. Simplify.
Okay.
Don't try to do everything. And so I realized for me, it's only 2 things, and I just have to do them. And even if I fail.
And what are those 2 things?
Travel and entrepreneurship.
Travel and entrepreneurship. Okay.
I don't care if I fail. I made a bunch of money with this. I don't care if I lose it all. I know I have the ability to make money. I know I have the ability to create massive amounts of value in businesses. Right. I will always make it back.
That's your belief. That's your core belief.
I know it.
Yeah.
It's not just a belief, it's a fact.
It's a fact.
It's a fact. And I've done it too many times for it to not be a fact. And now I have the confidence I can walk into a business that's doing $100 million of revenue. Fun fact, companies doing $100 million of revenue the founders, the CEOs, the people running it, they're just as lost as people with companies doing $5 million of revenue and startups. This is the most empowering. If there's one thing I want you to take away from,
Just one.
it is that people running companies have no idea what they're doing. Even the biggest companies in the world are shit shows.
Yeah.
And this means that you have an opportunity to build frameworks and do things to add value. And so this gave me a lot of empowerment when I was helping work on a company that was doing $50 million of revenue. I helped them sell, and they asked me to be the CFO. I knew who I wanted to be. I said, no, I did this. I helped this grow. I helped it sell. I know I can do this, and you can too. So if you're ever looking to quit your job, it's not that hard. Go find someone making a lot of money and be like, hey, I can do one thing better. I'll hire me as a consultant. But yeah, those are my limiting beliefs.
So you have rules in life. We have rules, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how could we shift our rules and just make them more so guidelines?
You have to have a willingness.
You do. You do.
I don't have a
You do
willingness.
kind of have to be willing, guys.
I personally, at this moment in my life, am not willing to compromise on making the attempt.
And what if it wasn't compromising? What if it was giving yourself more grace?
It depends how you define that, because I'm willing to give myself the grace to fail. I don't define trying and not succeeding as failure, because every time that I have attempted something, whether or not it's succeeded or failed by how you typically measure success or failure,
Right.
it has opened a door and moved me in the direction that I want to go.
That's huge. Remember that.
Everything. One piece of advice I give.
2 in 1.
One piece of advice number 2. If there's one thing to take about, second thing, it is that you need to be able to step into the unknown in order to create opportunity.
Yes.
Have a general idea of what you want to do, and then take a risk and move in the direction that you want to go. If I think about life as a path of all the opportunities that you could go, and then you think about today is my life right here in the middle, all the life paths that I could have gone are up and down, and now in the future, these are all closed to me, but the future, all these life paths are open to me. Now, if every day I go home and then I sit on the couch and I go to work and I go home and I sit on the couch, that life path does not have much opportunity to deviate in one direction or the other.
Right. You're stuck in a pattern.
You're stuck in a straight line
Right.
or a downward line. There's no way that line's going up.
Right.
And so if you want to create upward trajectory, a lot of times you'll see some guy that's like on Instagram that's like a millionaire, kind of looks like an idiot.
Yeah.
And he's like, got all this money. He's like, why does that idiot have all this money? Like, he doesn't deserve that. I deserve that. I'm way smarter than that guy. He did something. He did literally anything.
Did anything.
He's on camera. He's making content. He's putting himself out there. He did something while you sat on your couch. He took that risk, opened that door, and then deviated the life path into the unknown, which led to him now talking on camera. Maybe he sounds stupid, but guess what? He's got his ego version of his dream life, and now he will have the resources to give back and learn who he truly is, and probably be in a much better position in 20 years than someone who just sits on the couch.
Do it messy. Do it, do it like.
We didn't plan this podcast. I've never done a podcast in my life.
No, I mean, this is just like impromptu. I actually just ran out of a Tony event just so we could do this because it's important. And I think there's a lot of things that, people don't talk about, and I think taboo, one of them is fear of failure, and that comes into the fear part of it. A lot of times clients will come to me and say, I have all this fear. I really want to start this company. I really want to be in a dream relationship, like all these things. And it's like, but I have so much fear. It's like, what's your relationship with fear? Because here's the thing, fear can be something that can really serve you. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, Ben, go run out in the 5 lanes of traffic outside. Let's see how that goes for you. I don't know. You like extremes. You might like that. Okay, bring your skateboard. But no, like it's important to realize that fear is something, and I'm totally going to give one of my clients some recognition here. His name is Dr. Bafidas. He's an incredible plastic surgeon in West Palm here, but he told me it's fruitless, erroneous assertions realized, right? FEAR. Fruitless, erroneous assertions realized, or
What is?
fear. That's the acronym. That's the acronym. Or false expectations appearing real. My favorite one
That one's a good one.
is just fuck everything and run. Right? Fuck everything and run. But it's like, you remember that because you can either have fear for the good things. Like, I'm not going to go out and walk into traffic or touch a hot stove, right? That's normal. It's like your brain's saying, yes, I should have fear for that. But fear for things that are unknown or risky. Being an entrepreneur, Ben, you've taken so many risks, right? Like, they're calculated. I know you. They're calculated. But there is a part of you that has to say, I'm going to burn these boats and I'm just going to figure it out. You know, I don't know what the future has in store, but my purpose is so much greater. And I know who I want to become, like you said, is that I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get there. So when it comes to fear of failure, this is one of my favorite examples. One of my favorite role models is, I want to say her name right, the lady from Spanx, right? She said when she'd come home from school, her dad would sit down the whole family for dinner. And I love this story. He would say, what did you fail at today? Literally. And they'd go around the table and say, and if you couldn't figure out what you failed at, he would literally have her think about it, because it's desensitizing you from the fear of failure, which gets you to just say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to show up. I'm going to turn on my camera, even if I look stupid, and I'm going to share something I know that might help someone. Just because. Do it dirty, do it messy, do it half woken up, whatever it is, but just get it done, right? Just do it. Just do it, Nike, right? Just do it. Switch. Like, it's
great marketing.
Oh my God, it's so original, right? But that's the thing. And then it's being able to say, okay, well, every failure that, you know, that I come across that happens is just one more step towards my desired outcome, and not being afraid of that.
Yeah. I've reshaped my relationship with fear, I think, in a healthy way. And, you know, you have your human needs. Some people want certainty. Some people want uncertainty. I think I probably gravitate more toward uncertainty in some regards.
Sure.
Although I do gravitate toward certainty in others. But when it comes to risk taking, I gravitate toward uncertainty. And this is where my relationship with fear has evolved from a fear of taking risk to fear of never having tried. And I think that a lot of this came from kind of this identity I have, combined with a bit of a Dickens type process that was ingrained at Unleash the Power Within.
Dickens, let's just share. The Dickens process is...
Dickens process is essentially where you have multiple paths in life that you could go down based on actions that you have been taking, actions that you know hurt you. You think about them and think about, how bad would your life get if you kept doing these things over and over? And yeah, it's like, all right, well, I'll just smoke a cigarette. Tomorrow I'll be fine. Yeah, what about 10 years from now? What about 20 years from now?
Yes.
What about if it got as bad as it could possibly get in 10 years and then you still lived another 10 years? How bad would that be?
You just stack the pain.
You just stack the pain. And then it tells you this is what you move away from. And then you have the flip side, which is, well, what if I do all the things that I know I should do? What if I become the best version of myself? How good could my life be? What could it look like? And so it really ingrains, and like I still, to this day, if I squeeze my fist, it takes you to like basically prime yourself and like good feelings come in. And when I think about certain things, I can't do them. Like there were certain patterns I had and I cannot do them anymore after this process. It's truly,
it's powerful.
Powerful. It's like in your nervous system. I am now more afraid of not taking risks than I am of taking risks. And I'm not afraid of losing things, but I would rather lose all of my money over the next 2 years pursuing something that I felt that I wanted to try for a long time than leaving my money in the market and the market's ripping and tripling my money and then just living off dividends for the rest of my life. I'm so averse to the idea of not taking risk that it overcomes any fear I have of actually doing the thing, of getting on a camera, of going to weird countries, of spending money on building a software that I have no idea if it even will ever be monetized. You know, it's all theory until you try it. But I believe that if you take risk, it'll open doors that you cannot foresee. And then when you walk through the door, you're like, oh, I thought I was going to see one thing, but I see another thing. This is way better. But you can't do that unless you open the door. And if you just sit on your couch and watch Netflix and scroll on your phone, you're not walking through any doors.
You're not.
So I'd rather take the risk.
So I love that too, is it's all about showing up too, right? Like if you can show up for yourself, right? You can decide I'm going to wake up at 5 or I am going to get that gym membership or whatever it is. That's half the battle. And then the rest, you'll figure it out. Yeah. That's what life is about. It's this crazy, amazing, temporary experience we have on this planet.
Agreed.
It's a game.
It is a game.
Gamify
Actually, I was
it.
talking to a CEO of a competitor, believe it or not. We were trying to find common ground. And we were talking about purpose. And, you know, he said, what is your purpose? What's my purpose? I said, my purpose is to basically help people figure out why they were put on this earth and then how they can use that to make money.
I love that.
Because you could just say, like, my purpose is X, Y, Z, and then you go kind of like frolic in the pansies and paint pictures, and then you go broke and you have nothing to give. But I believe that if you can figure out why you were put on this earth and how you can leverage that in order to generate income, then getting income will feel like a game. And so then we thought about it and we thought, if you can make life a game and make everything kind of points, then it makes life easier and it makes success easier. And so then you have the game that you play, which is your purpose and how you use your purpose practically. And I created this, I call it the AMMO framework. Yeah.
I want to hear more about that.
It's the action that you do. Maybe you love being creative. Maybe you love numbers. Maybe you love whatever. What is the action that you do?
Okay.
What is the audience that you serve? So this is someone that you might be deeply connected to through pain. This might be someone that, like for me, I am deeply connected to working professionals who are in careers that they do not feel fulfilled in and feel called to leave that and try to do something with their life that isn't aligned with who they are, so they can make money not serving someone else.
So it's fulfilling.
It's fun for them. Yeah.
It's fun.
And then you have, that's AA, it's AMMO, AAMO, and then you have medium. So what is the medium that you serve them through? Is it consulting? Is it creating content? Is it through a software platform?
Wow.
What is the medium for you? And then what is the outcome that you want to give them? And so then the outcome is, all right, well, they quit their job. They're happy now. They're actually making money doing something that they love, right? That's the outcome that I serve to the audience. I'll do it through creating tools and creating content and building communities. And I think I've created a framework to actually, a questionnaire rather, that you can ask a series of questions from people like Viktor Frankl. I think actually Tony Robbins is making like a movie or documentary on Viktor Frankl, which is a crazy story, but Man's Search for Meaning, book by Viktor Frankl. He was a psychologist, but whatever. Amazing. But he focused his whole life on how you can find your meaning and this logotherapy of how you can use your meaning in order to cure neuroses. And then you have people like Tony Robbins, who've been a big inspiration to me. You have people like Jordan Peterson, who's kind of like a modern philosopher who focuses a lot on this as well. You have people like Simon Sinek, who he has, start with why, and then that kind of led into, okay, well, what is my why? And follow-up book, which is Find Your Why. You have the Ikigai concepts. There's all these people out there, and then I kind of looked at what are the core concepts they all have in common. Robert Greene, one of my favorites, famous for 48 Laws of Power. Also another book that he wrote is called Mastery. I think that Mastery, I wish he named it differently because I would have read it a lot sooner. The whole first part of the book is all about how to find what he calls your life's task. And then he has a process that you can go through to figure out what your life's task is, because he believes, it's a lot of where I get my ideas from, in mastery, if you want to be that person who can become a master, you have to first find what your life's task is, because then you don't think about it. Then you don't have to make the choice. Then it's, what do I just love doing? And so all these people, I kind of like read through it, tried to find what they have in common, what are kind of the outlier ideas, and then boiled it down to a questionnaire, and then had it kind of open, and then I made it into like multiple choice with another option, and then you can add helpful context. But basically you fill it out, it'll say, here's your purpose in life. 6 questions. You can answer it very lazily. If you're not happy, you can add more context. And then just use AI, because AI is incredible. And it'll give you kind of a high level. Here is the action that you should do based off, things that you get lost in doing. Here's the audience that you should serve based on what you are drawn to, what movements, what you would change about the world, what pain you felt, who you never want to feel that pain again to as well. What is the medium that you should serve them through versus, what are your natural talents and ways that you could actually effectively scale this and make money? And then what is the outcome that you want this audience that you want to serve actually achieve? And so it'll deliver that to you and then recommend ways that you can make money with that purpose. And so that's kind of the path that I'm going down, is helping people figure that out for themselves. That's kind of the next stage in my journey. And right now I work for a company that serves people who want to become entrepreneurs, and it's really great and it's fulfilling when they're successful. But I found that a lot of times that it's really only great if this is aligned with your AMO framework. People who are totally aligned with trying to make money through e-commerce and the methods that we provide, they do extremely well. The people who are not aligned, they're gonna have to try to force themselves and do a course, and they're just gonna hate it, and they're gonna give up, and they're gonna fail.
Sure.
100% of the time, if this is not aligned with who you are, you're gonna fail.
It's gotta be in line with your identity and your why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now I wanna serve that other cohort, that massive cohort of people that are like, they clearly have the desire to do something and make money, but this one thing that we serve them with right now is not that thing.
Right.
But there's a whole world of other things that they just don't know. There's also like a lot of sharky people out there who have courses and content they don't know who to trust. And I just want to make a place where they can all say, all right, here's what I should do. Here's the courses I should buy. Here's who I can trust. Here's the tools I need to get started. And just put it there, send it out to the world, and just let people enjoy it.
That sounds incredibly enticing. I definitely want to hear more about that.
Yeah, in the future we'll talk about it.
Super cool.
I got to build the thing,
Okay. I'm excited to hear about it. I think there was just one thing I wanted to share is around mentors.
Oh, yeah.
And how important that is. So right now, it's like, think about who in your life you might know, a friend of somebody, or even if it's just, hey, I'm just going to pick up an audio by, Tony or by Jordan Peterson or by whoever it is. Just find someone that you want to emulate the success of, because that's what you were sharing earlier as well, right? You need to be able to model that.
Yeah, it's really hard to figure it out completely on your own.
Yeah, you can't. It's impossible.
You can. It just takes way too long, and it's way more painful than it has to be.
It is, and it'll take you more time. Yeah.
Yeah, way too long. If you have a mentor, they can steer you in the right direction. And this is where I think AI is
it's a great resource.
An amazing resource. I've been using AI as like a power user for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing this, but they overshare. Hopefully our data never gets leaked. It would be disastrous, or, AI never tries mental warfare, would destroy us.
Oh, yeah.
But AI is an amazing tool for this self-discovery process.
Right. It is.
And the problem with AI, though, is it is overly agreeable.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is reactive. And you have to train it to be disagreeable over time. And even still, the more you train it to be disagreeable, it still is overly agreeable. But it's also reactive. And it doesn't live the life that you want. So AI is an amazing tool, but is not a replacement for a mentor, or for a coach, rather, in that regard. Again, reactive. A mentor, what I would suggest is that you find somebody who isn't even necessarily in the job or the career that you want, but find someone who lives the life that you want to live in the future. Like someone that you see yourself being. And I think that what most people do when they find a mentor is they're like, this guy does the thing that I want to do in the future as a career. That is great. I think you should have one of those, but I think it's even more powerful when you find somebody that you just genuinely look up to as a human being. They have the family. Like I have a friend.
One of your family members you look up to as well,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. My uncle is someone that I look up to immensely. He's an entrepreneur. He's in the tech space. He has an amazing family. He's been with his wife since he was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
His kids are all successful. He built a tech company. He was an athlete, and now his kids work for the tech company, and they're doing great. He never sold it. He's just the epitome of a good man creating a good life.
Yeah.
And someone I look up to. Yeah. And I think he's very fulfilled. He's a great guy. And my other mentor, my friend's dad, he also is a very family-oriented guy. He's created businesses. He's sold businesses. He's I love his son. I'm good friends with his son, and his daughter's doing very well as well. And he's just like the type of guy that you want to be. And I wouldn't necessarily go down the same path that he went down or that my uncle went down. I've gone down a very different path, and I'm a very different person. But
Yeah.
I do know that there's someone I can go to talk to get advice that I would take seriously, because I know where I want to end up and the type of person I want to end up being, and that's who they are, as opposed to like just having the career.
Yeah, I think that's a huge factor, is that you got to look at what's the lifestyle. Are they truly, incongruent with that,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
also, is the identity that you want to have, in line with that as well.
Right.
And it's also about getting support. It's like, you don't want to do it on your own.
No.
And I think it was also the moment where I created my identity, was where I was like, you know what, I actually really do need help. You know what I mean? And I need accountability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you definitely want to have a support system. So if that is a coach, great. Get a coach. Get a Tony Robbins coach. Doesn't have to be. Get a coach. Get a mentor.
I mean,
get someone,
a lot of
shameless
the
plug,
things
but-
that I worked through, first of all, Tony Robbins' books got me started.
Yeah.
And the reason that I went to the UPW Unleash Your Power Within Tony Robbins event was because I'd read all the books.
Right.
I'd listened to a lot of his content, a lot of the videos, but I'd never lived it. And I knew if I went to an event, like there's all these exercises in the books, and like I'll start writing it down, I'll get distracted, whatever.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to force myself to just be fully immersed, do like the things, and it might seem a little culty, whatever. Just, it's totally worth it. I got the experience, and I ingrained the negatives in that I need to ingrain in, and I instilled the positives, and like I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to go, but a big part of it was working with you. And like the relationship that I have with my dad, I probably would have just figured that out on my own. That required external intervention.
Sometimes you need that. I've needed that many times.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't think ChatGPT is enough to have a human be like, pull out your phone, call him right now.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like, you have to do it. I'm staring at you. Do it.
Yeah. We need friends like that. You're
Yeah.
you're that for me. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So
Tell you the things you don't want to hear. Yeah.
AI is great,
Yeah.
but it's AI.
Everything has its limits too, So
Yeah,
so
it's great.
yeah, it is great, but support is
I was
huge.
telling you, I was like, pretend you're Tony Robbins. Now, what would you tell me?
I do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you have this voice for me? Can you like tell me what I need to hear with like a more like
Say it in a deeper, raspier,
Yeah.
louder, more energetic voice, please.
well, we have Tony AI now, so
Does it have his voice?
Yeah.
No.
It does. And
funny.
it'll say your name too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
finally knows who I am.
Yeah,
I wonder
exactly.
if he does. I've been in his studio.
Probably knows who you are.
Jumped on his little trampoline and says, make your move.
Make your move, say yes.
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 He would yell at me and be like, say it louder.
Yeah, exactly.
Say it with your chest. Make a move. I'm like, okay. Jesus Christ.
Whoa.
All right, fine, Tony.
Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
All right, I'm doing it. Yes, Tony. Anything.
Whatever you say. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah,
I've
no,
just
thank
really
you
enjoyed
for
this so much.
pushing me into the unknown and the uncomfortable
Likewise.
position of yapping about stuff on camera. And
Likewise.
if this fails and gets 0 views, I don't care. And I will keep making more content, and I will keep pursuing the things that we do. And if people actually do find value in this, then I appreciate you guys listening. And I hope that the takeaways are actually useful and actionable, and not just these pie in the sky theories
Yeah.
that people just throw out there.
Yeah, because there's no shortage of knowledge and strategy, right? It's
Yeah.
if you decide to make a choice, hopefully this makes you, have a fire under you and get you going. So
if I were to do another one of these,
yeah.
I would pick a single topic and I'd go very deep with actionable things.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you.
To be continued.
All right. Thanks, Bree.
Thank you, Ben.